Hello, how is it going? All right, one of the videos I have promised you guys is to show you how we do our beans. Since we do not use canned beans, I really don't care for them. To me, they have kind of a tinny taste, and that's just not something that I care for. And well, they add sodium and everything else. So if we do ours from dry, it goes a lot better for everybody. So we just buy, this is actually from Walmart. It's a 1 pound bag. We've got some small red here. We've got light red kidney. And then the other thing I promised to show you guys is pinto beans. Actually, I didn't promise to show you the pinto beans. Sorry about the camera there. I didn't promise to show you guys the pinto beans. I promised to show you how we make our own refried beans, which may not be the traditional way whatsoever, but they taste the same. They are better for you. They're easy. And honestly, we can't see ever going back to the canned, because that is one thing we used to buy canned. And now my husband actually loves it the most. And he himself has said that he would much rather eat the ones that I make than the canned any day. So first thing I'm going to do, let me show you here. I have 2 bean pots. Now, you do not have to have a bean pot to soak your beans. This is just helpful. I've actually had these for almost our entire marriage, and the company doesn't even exist anymore. I know you can buy bean pots elsewhere, but you do not have to have one. You just need to have a container that you can put the beans in, that you can cover them. It doesn't need to be airtight. I don't know whether or not it needs to be dark or not, honestly, if that's just a feature of the fact that this is stoneware. But it needs to be covered, and the beans need room to expand. That's what it needs. So anyhow, I'm going to use these. One of these is slightly smaller than the other. So this one I'm going to do my red and my kidney beans in for various other meals. And this one I'm actually going to soak all of my pinto beans in to make my refried beans. So I am going to get those started. Step 1. When you are soaking beans, aside from having a container to put them in, get out your colander. You're going to actually put your beans in here first and rinse them. Because if you have never worked with dry beans before, guys, do not be shocked. You will randomly find not just rocks, but clumps of mud or dirt. Obviously, it's not mud anymore, but it's clumps of dirt in there. It's from the harvesting process. Just anticipate it. You're going to rinse them off. You're going to wash them. It's going to be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put those in the colander, and then I'm going to get them rinsed, and I'll show you the next step from there. All right, guys, I already realized that I needed to be showing you this as I'm doing it. I've started putting some of the pinto beans into my colander. Basically what I'm doing is now because I've got this stored in a large container, I will take it by the handful. Now you're going to see here, like this little guy here is not the best looking. In fact, he may be a little rotten. So I will actually sort that one out and set it, and I will throw those away after I am done. I do the same thing with any rocks or clumps of dirt. The other ones, the 1 pound bags of red beans and kidney beans, I will actually just pour them into here, and I will do it slowly and watch things as they pour through and pull them out when I spot them. I'm only doing this by hand since I had it stored in a bulk container to begin with. Now, the amount that you want to do is purely based on the container you're putting them in. So this bean pot, this larger one is the one that I will use for these beans, and I'm going to fill it almost halfway with the pinto beans. They actually expand quite a bit, so be prepared for that, and your container needs to have the space for them to expand completely. So I'm going to go ahead and continue sorting my pinto beans, and then I will go ahead and show you how I do the red beans at that point then too, before we put them in the bean pots. They're being cut. All right, so I finished rinsing my pinto beans, and seriously, it's all the time. Anyhow, I rinsed these. I have not added any water to them or anything yet. All I did was I sorted them into here, rinsed them off with cool water, and then put them in my bean pot. There actually wasn't that much to sort out of those ones. There were 4 questionable little beans and then just the outside skin of one, which all that's going to do is float to the surface anyhow. So I just pulled it out. So now I have my dark red that I'm going to go ahead, and normally I kind of pour into my hand and use it as a sifter. But since you guys are watching, I'm going to just do my best to watch. Now I'm going to show you one thing here. So like this little bean right here. I don't know with the lighting if you can see this or not. So this one is a little dirty looking, but there's nothing wrong with it. This right here is precisely why we rinse these before we start soaking them. Just to rinse off any of that residue and residual dirt. So I'm actually seeing a few dirty ones in here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish sorting these through my hand, because if I get down to rocks and stuff, it's going to be harder to catch them while I'm filming. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to add my light red kidney beans, and then I will rinse those as well and show you guys all of that. All right, guys. So what I've got here is I went ahead and I actually added a little bit more pinto beans, and then in the end, I think I went a little over half. It's still going to be fine. My lid is not going to stay on. These beans will actually expand enough. They're going to raise the lid. I've had that happen before. Not the end of the world. The 2 pounds of red and kidney beans are the perfect amount for my slightly smaller bean pot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill these with water up to this lower brim, just underside the brim, and then I will put the lids on. After I do that, they're going to sit and soak for at least 12 hours. I can usually look at them. At this point, I've gotten really good at looking at them and telling if they've plumped as much as they're going to. You can leave them longer. I probably wouldn't do less. 12 hours is usually about what they need. And from there, I will actually, the red and the kidney beans, I'm going to freeze. I will divide them into 2-cup bags, and that works perfectly for soups, chilies, and things like that. One thing I do want to say though, and I've been seeing this in a couple groups, people talking about it and saying that they use dried beans, but they just throw the dried beans straight in and let them cook from there. I don't recommend that. Now, I'm not speaking as an expert here. I am just telling you what I have learned over the years. And what I learned a while back is that there are several beans, at least the red or kidney beans, one of those two. I don't know which other ones, but it's not worth the risk. Anyhow, those beans, during the process of soaking and everything and plumping up, there's something that they actually release that can be harmful to you. And that's one reason to soak them, rinse them, and then use them, instead of just trying to cook them from dry. Not to mention that it takes forever to try and do it that way. Trust me. I've tried it once. Anyhow, so I highly recommend soaking them first and then freezing them. So store them for another day, because soaking is such a long process. You can do this ahead of time. You can soak as much as you want to, freeze them, use them whenever, keep as much on hand as you would buy canned. It's really that easy. As for the refried beans, with the pinto beans here, that one I'm going to soak the same amount of time. We'll rinse them off after they're done soaking. I will come back and show you guys all of that tomorrow when I do that. Can't promise it'll look as nice, but anyhow, and then I will show you the process I go through. I actually cook them in the Instant Pot, and then I use an immersion blender. So I also add a little bit of something else to them. So I will show you guys all of that tomorrow. So tonight I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fill these up with water, put the lids on. I'm going to go watch some TV. So I'll see you guys. For you, it'll be just a second. Good morning, guys. All right, I am back. My beans have soaked overnight. They did exactly what I said they were going to do. As you can tell, my voice is still not getting better just yet, so bear with me for the next week or so. I really hope that this wears off soon. Anyhow, so let's take a look here. So I've got my two bean pots. You can tell that the lid on this one is propped up a little bit because I had too many pinto beans in there. They have absorbed all the water that they're going to, and they absorbed enough to prop up the lid. The other pot is full just to the top. That was the perfect amount to go in there. Now, the next thing you want to do when you are soaking dry beans and prepping those is rinse them off. Because even though we rinsed them before we put them in there and soaked them, you just want to get off any residual. And guys, I'm all about getting rid of the gross, okay? So I don't like to eat dirt with my food. So if I missed any, I want to rinse it off now. Not to mention, I mentioned previously that certain beans release something that can actually make you sick. So I just want to make sure that all that's rinsed off and we're all good and that I don't have to worry. Maybe it's an extra step, but it makes me feel better and I like the way they turn out. So I've got my colander in the sink. What I'm going to do is actually take my bean pot. I'm going to see if I can do this one-handed. Do not judge me. Okay, so I got part of it. I am not strong enough. That's actually really heavy. And I lost about 4 or 5 beans down into the sink trying to do that. So it's really that easy. You pour them in here, turn on the cold water, which just started out warmer than I'd wanted, and then you're just going to rinse them. All right, I've rinsed that batch now, which I'm kind of glad I only did half the pot because the colander gets just full enough. I will go ahead, I will grab a 1 cup measuring cup, and I'm going to, sorry, I'm picking all the extra beans out of my sink. And I'm throwing those couple away because I just do that. All right, so now that I've rinsed those, I'm gonna grab the 1 cup measuring cup. I'm gonna scoop them out, put 2 cups per bag, squish them flat, and throw them in the freezer. Do make sure that you mark what date it was when you soaked them. And I always write soaked on them because occasionally I will go ahead and actually fully cook beans as well. So if you're gonna do that, from this stage, I would take them and put them in the crock pot and I will cook them because right now it is, well, actually it's 11 o'clock. So those actually soaked for 14 hours. But I would now cook them until tonight, right before we went to bed. And then I would do 2 cup scoops. I would do that for soups and stuff on the stove, something quick that you want already cooked beans added to. That's what you would use in place of the pre-cooked canned beans. Versus like these soaked beans, I will throw into the Instant Pot for chilies and things because it will cook while in there. If I need them to be pre-cooked already, then I will do that and have some set aside. I haven't needed that for a while though, so I'm probably not going to bother with that today. Okay, so that's my red and my kidney beans. The pinto beans, after I'm done rinsing all of my red and kidney beans, I'm going to do the exact same thing with these. I'm going to rinse them, and then I'm going to break out my Instant Pot and show you guys how I make our refried beans. So stick around. All right, really quick before I move on to the refried beans, I want to show you guys that these are the kidney and the red beans all bagged up. I have 3 bags that are 2 cups each, and I did 2 bags that are 3 cups each because as I was doing it, I thought about it and realized it's still winter. We'll probably have chili a couple more times, and I want a few more beans in there. So I could have made 3 bags of 2 cups out of that, but this is the way it worked out. And guys, this was 2 pounds of dry beans, yielded that much. So if anybody is counting pennies and thinking about ways to cut back, this is one way to do it if you use a lot of canned beans. So now I'm moving on. I have already rinsed my pinto beans. I'm gonna go ahead and get those added. to my Instant Pot that Miss Charlie pulled out for me. I'm going to check my ring and get all of this set up, and then I'll show you what else I add to it. Alright, everything is prepped now. I have my pinto beans in my 6-quart Instant Pot. You can see how much this filled this up. I am on the verge of needing to have actually moved this to the 8-quart since I'm making that much more this time. I'm going to see just how much this comes out to be. Usually when I fill this pot perfectly, it gives me about two taco dishes worth when we mix it with the taco meat, which I showed you guys in another recent recipe video. So what I'm going to do is you want to go ahead and take some water and add that just to the top of the beans. So I'm actually going to add just a hair more. Then I've got 8 tablespoons of butter cut up into little squares. I'm gonna go ahead and, it's harder to do one-handed than you think, guys. So we're just gonna break this up and put it all over in there. This is actually unsalted butter, but that's just because it's what I had on hand for some baking. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my hand off really quick because now it's all buttery and greasy. Normally I don't have to touch it so much. But again, one-handed is not always the easiest. Alright, now that my hand is clean, next thing I'm going to add is salt. Again, I would normally measure this into the palm of my hand. So I'm going to eyeball this. About a tablespoon, I don't know if you could actually even see me putting it in there, but about a tablespoon's worth of salt in this amount is what you want. Now, the other thing I'm going to point out is when I first showed you guys the Instant Pot as I was pulling it out, it had a brown ring in it. This is a Instant Pot trick that I learned when we first got it, is get extra silicone rings. We use different rings for different foods. This is the clear one that came with it. It's very well seasoned. Silicone absorbs the smell of various foods. So we use this one for more savory foods and things like that. The brown ring that was in it, I actually use for desserts because I use this Instant Pot to make pico in, which I will show you guys another day. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on this. Love the little chime. As always, make sure that your valve is turned to seal and not to venting. My pin is down, so it's ready to come up whenever it comes to pressure. I'm going to go ahead and set this. I want it to be 35 minutes, so we're going to do manual. Okay, and it's already on high pressure, which is what I want as well. So we'll go ahead and, I'm actually going to move this up to 45. I think when I did it last time, I found that it actually worked a little bit better because basically you want the pinto beans to be overcooked. And then I'm going to break out the immersion blender once they're done and blend all of that down. But I'll show you what it looks like before and after so you kind of get a feel for it and then how I measure that out. So I'm going to let these cook and I'll see you guys back in just a second. Alright guys, so the Instant Pot is done cooking. I've actually let it sit and do a natural release, which you want to do anyhow. Let it do a natural release, but I let it sit a little longer than I would have, but I've been visiting and it's been a lot of fun. So, I've got my immersion blender. This is what the inside looks like. It is just cooked up beans. You can see it, the butter and everything melted down in. I am just going to blend these until honestly it becomes a paste. So I'm going to do this because the noise is horrific, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like after I'm done. Alright, so there it is. Refried beans. Honestly, they look like any other refried beans. They taste the same too. This is really hot since I let it sit for so long. So I've got it turned off. I'm going to let this cool for a while. It's actually going to take an hour or better before it cools enough for me to put it in the bags to then freeze it. So I will actually put those in the bag, squish them, stick them in the freezer just like I did the other beans, and mark them. Make sure that you date it so you know when you did it. And then you've got your refried beans, pull it out. You can pull it out a day in advance so it thaws, stick it in the fridge if you're gonna do that. Or you can run it under water to soften it enough to break it up, to add it to whatever dish you're gonna add it to. If you're gonna try it with the taco meat like we do, then do it the same way I did. Anyhow, I hope this helped somebody. Let me know if you try this and if it works for you. If it doesn't, I'm really sorry. Let me know that too. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.